What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we finally have episode 50. And it's a special episode because it is week 1 of the NFL season. As always, I'm with my boy Andrew here, and we've been talking about this day for a while now. We kept saying, hey, episode 550, that's gonna be the one that's gonna start the season. Um, how you feeling right now? Because
Dude,
we are less than 24 hours away now from the official kickoff tomorrow. Kansas City versus Ravens. Football's back.
football is so fucking back, and I am so ready for this season to begin.
Yes.
Obviously, we got football tomorrow on Thursday night. Then we get Friday night football. Then we get Saturday college football. Then we get Sunday NFL season. It's going to be a football weekend starting tomorrow, and I am beyond stoked for it. And I cannot wait just to sit my ass on the couch all weekend and just watch some goddamn football. And, well, I'll also be traveling on Saturday, so I'll miss the
Yeah.
college football. But Sunday, I'll be in Myrtle Beach watching the Browns play on the beach. And if we lose, at least I'll be relaxing and chilling on the beach. He's
Right.
already drunk.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, unfortunately, I will neither be on the beach or be in a good spot to watch the game on Sunday because I work on Sundays. So that is going to be tragic for me. I know. Trying to change that, but so far we're here where we're at. But yeah, the NFL season is officially beginning tomorrow. Honestly, a pretty good game to start. Um, do you like that they started with sort of a game like uh, Kansas City versus Baltimore?
I think so. Just for the fact that, this was the biggest game of the year last year. And I think just to have it as the beginning game of this season, I'd rather, and this is probably gonna be the best Thursday night game we've seen in a long time. I
Yeah,
would I would rather have a Thursday night game be two elite teams like the Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs instead of, oh, well, we got Thursday night football for you, baby, first week, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars versus like the New Orleans, and it's like nobody's like caring, and like, I mean, yay, football's back, but we don't want to watch this dog shit.
yeah,
like, like they gave us an It's preparing us for the weekend. We're getting an exciting matchup with the Chiefs and Ravens. The next day we get the Eagles and the Packers, which is another very good, exciting matchup. So back to back exciting matchups. So it makes me so happy that football is back, and it's actually worth watching
oh yeah,
because it's both games are both two really good teams going at it, and I would rather watch that than have it be Jacksonville versus like the Cardinals or some dumpy ass
yeah,
team like that.
yeah.
That I would. I think I'd probably watch like till halftime, then go to bed at that point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I personally think this is going to be kind of like a offensive showdown.
Yeah,
We get to see how Baltimore is going to play with Derrick Henry. We're going to see these new weapons that Kansas City added to their other offense. They're not going to have Brown. He was officially listed out today, but this is going to be a fun game. I think the Ravens do have a slight edge in terms of their defense, but Kansas City's no slouch either, and they've won back-to-back Super Bowls for a reason. They
mm-hmm.
always show up and they always prevail. Now last year, I believe it was them and Detroit that played, and Detroit beat them. So hopefully for Kansas City in that way, it's not going to be a repeat of what happened last year. But overall, fun start to the NFL season. I think they did a great job. The only game I'm not really overly concerned with or overly hyped about is the Brazil game, just because I honestly feel bad for those players. Because Brazil is just not the greatest place on earth to be doing this, but it's still cool to get them
Yeah.
in a different spot and keep spreading uh, football in
I
different places that aren't really popular there.
well, yeah, that's the point. But my biggest thing is, and this is where I bring out the soccer background. Um, where they're playing is the worst place they could play because for non-soccer fans, in Brazil, there's a team. They're playing at Corinthians Stadium, and their main rival is Palmeiras. Well, Palmeiras wears green, and you can see where this is going because both NFL teams wear green for
Green.
their
Yes.
jerseys, and around that area, people of Corinthians absolutely hate the color green because it resembles the team that their main rival that they desperately hate. And I think a lot of the gangs around the area wear the
Yeah.
color green.
Yes.
So you put them, and I can't remember. I think who was it that talked about not wanting to go down there, but
It was
Darius
Darius
Slay.
Slay. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Darius Slay.
he told his family not to come. He didn't even want to travel, which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Like you could have had this game in Rio, Brasilia, so somewhere else where there's no green affiliation. I mean, Rio has green, but there's no gang related activities of people
Yeah.
wearing green or people in that area hate the color green. You chose the worst place possible to have this game, and they've already been, and guys like Slay and others, both teams have been told by the league to not leave their hotels,
Yep.
to not
Wear green
wear
outside
green
of the hotel.
outside of the hotel, to bring like fake wallets and fake phones and whatnot in case they get robbed if they do go out.
Yeah.
But they're not allowed to leave the hotel. When they arrive, they've been told to bring a lot of fake shit, so in case they get stolen, at least it's the fake shit they got stolen, not the real shit.
Yeah.
Like you could have put both teams in the worst possible place to play this game.
Yeah.
No, I get the concept, like you said, it's for bringing the game to places that don't have NFL and that could get excited for NFL season. But why not make it in the most popular destination and make it in Rio?
Yeah.
Like
For real.
that would have made the most sense. It probably would have been the more safest place. I know Rio has a lot of violence and stuff like that as well. All of Brazil does.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon, but it's more safe. The players could actually leave the hotel and go do some night activities. You don't have to worry about wearing the color green.
Yep. Yeah. It didn't really make sense at the specific location of Brazil that they went to. It just
Yeah.
didn't make sense, and it's gonna cause some issues if they don't have a good handle on it. Hopefully, the players are smart and safe. They totally understand that
They're gonna
it's
have to
no
have a
it's no
lot
joke.
of
Yeah.
they're
It's no
gonna have to
joke.
have a lot of what is it? A lot of protective personnel around them,
Have to.
and there's no other way around it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sao Paulo is a great city, but not even a couple hours down the road is Rio.
Yeah.
So again, there's better options, but they're gonna have a lot of policing around them, a lot of bodyguards, protection. They're probably gonna have all of the Sao Paulo police just following them everywhere they go. It's not gonna be good.
No, it's not. So yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be a fun weekend. Obviously, we have some good matchups, and also you've got now the mix of college football, which we will
Yep.
get to in a second. And then obviously you have NFL Sunday. It's like a holiday for us every year. It's like opening day in baseball. It's one of those days where you just enjoy fully as a fan. So I'm really excited, and we're gonna get into the Browns game here in a minute. But I do want to touch up on the Ohio State game, which, as expected, Ohio State was supposed to win that game. There was no way they were gonna lose to Akron. But they
They did
started
give us a
slow.
scare.
Yeah, they started slow, and I honestly, what made me more upset is I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all that we started slow. We've always started slow against these teams at the first game or two, or even 3 games. Like that is just going to happen pretty much almost every time too, and that's why I wasn't geeking out on Twitter. When Jeremiah Smith dropped his first ball and then had a false start, it's like, okay, it's his first series. Let him get the jitters out. And it didn't take long for Jeremiah Smith to make his name stamped, cemented into this offense, because he started it out. And my God, after that, Will Howard played exceptionally well. Again, I know it's against Akron, but he seemed to handle the offense. His arm looks good. He was able to scramble a few times. couldn't get the running game going very well, but the pass game worked, and our defense showed up. They scored, what, 3 or 2 touchdowns? We just did it, did what we had to do, and we beat an inferior opponent, and that's how you should show up. What did you make about just the overall game, the way everything went, and what you liked about what happened on Saturday?
No, I mean, I'm with you the entire way. I think Will Howard was a big bright spot in the game the other day on Saturday. He played exceptionally well. Again, we're not going to overhype this because it was against Akron. So it was expected to be this kind of scoreline. It was expected that Akron would get their doors blown off. They're just there to make their cash and leave.
Yeah.
But take nothing away from Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he looked like every bit a part of what we wanted him to be.
Yep.
And like you said, he dropped the first ball. And your first game in a new stadium and a new atmosphere, obviously new quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Again, both quarterback and both wide receiver coming from a different college. Going to be a little bit hard to get that connection built on the first week. So obviously there's a couple drop balls, a couple misplaced balls. But that's what these tune-up games are for against Akron. They're there to work things out, fix things, get things moving again. Again, Jeremiah Smith finished with 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, so it's not like he had a bad day. Judkins had a rushing touchdown. Travion Henderson just rebuilding from what he did last year. He almost had 70 yards rushing on 8 carries. So in the defense, again, Ransom had a fumble 6.
Yep.
He had a fumble 6, and
Burke had a pick at the beginning of the game.
Burke had a pick, yep. Like, the team is looking very good. The defense has looked astounding. Again, TJ sacking every quarterback he gets, and it was just an all-around great performance. Again, the slow start's going to happen because of where, obviously, it's week 1.
Yeah.
It's game 1. Again, you have a lot of new, especially offensively, you have a lot of new offensive players, so Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith are going to build that connection. Obviously, same with Carnell Tate. So, who also had a great game.
Oh, yeah.
Gabe Powers with a pick 6, which is fantastic to see as well. So, there's just a lot that needs obviously ironed out. And again, there's stuff that Ryan Day needs to iron out. Especially too, you brought in Chip Kelly as an offensive coordinator, so he's gonna help iron things out. Which I'm glad he's calling the plays this year, not Ryan Day.
Yeah,
that makes me a lot more comfortable. I think that makes me feel a lot more comfortable going forward. But the offense is gonna come around. We're not gonna play anybody serious for another couple of weeks. I mean, taking a look at the schedule, we have Western Michigan coming Saturday.
Yeah.
That's not a scary team. Again, it's another low-end MAC school. So it's nothing to kick home about. So
no,
I think it's going to be another big-time performance from the Buckeyes. And then they start getting to the nitty-gritty. I know they play Marshall. And Marshall's probably, and I would say Marshall's a little bit more different and more tougher than Akron and Western Michigan. But by then, Will Howard and all those guys should be geared to go, good to go, finding the connections. Again, you'll find Judkins and Travion Henderson just running the rock like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to see a true Chip Kelly offense. And I'm excited to see it, but game 2 is just gonna be more ironing out the works and me losing a bet by half a point, because if you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, me and Zach had a 2-leg parlay of Akron getting over 3.5 points and Ohio State's team total being over 52.5. Well, Ohio State finished with the 52 points. They didn't get the half point, unfortunately, so they didn't get 53. And then Akron with 2 field goals. With early, right in the first possession, got a quick field goal. And then I was on my way to Columbus to go watch a Columbus Crew game. So obviously I was driving past the Ohio Stadium and whatnot. And it pissed me off when Akron would go for 4th and 5 every single time they were in like Ohio State's
Yep.
like 30-yard line. I'm like, oh my god, just kick the goddamn. They could have had like 12 points on just field goals alone,
Yeah.
and it pissed me the hell off. But you know what? Me and Zach were pretty much right on in our prediction over 3.5 points, 52.5 points for Ohio State. Ohio State just needed at least 4 minutes left on the clock and just kick the field goal or something just to put
Yeah.
it out of reach. And I also would have hit my other bet, which was the same thing, but also it was the over. And I think the over was like 54 or something, and the field goal would have made it 55. So
Yeah.
could have had two easy bets hit for, I think it was like $20 each. And I could have had $40 in one day, and that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I also had another random bet that I put in, so I had like $2.60 left in my
Yeah.
account. I was like, I don't want to put anything on here right now, like I'm working. And I was like, I just want to put in a quick bet. So I did a very random bet with Ohio State where I just did a score predict bet, and I predicted them to win 55-6, and they won 52-6. So I was a field goal away from hitting on a $2 bet, winning like $227. So I
Yeah.
missed out on that, but at least it was money that I hadn't, put on there, recently. It's been on there since probably basketball season. So it was fine. I didn't really care, but overall, again, it was just a good day. I'm glad that they didn't seem to struggle for too long. They started to pull away, and honestly, they really used that pass rush to really like
Yeah.
beat Akron's quarterback up. I honestly felt bad for that kid because like he is gonna see Jack Sawyer in his nightmares. I swear Jack Sawyer was around him all the time.
Yeah.
And even same with JT. I think JT had the first sack or two in the game anyway. But you have corners, you have safeties getting sacks as well. It was just a very rough game for him. He took a lot of QB shots, and I think that's just kind of if Ohio State can find a way to do that throughout the season against better opponents and still wearing their team down on defense, it's going to be a very very tough team to beat if that defense can really like consistently bring that. And they have the ability to like their pass rushers are much better than they have been in recent years, and I think they have the most experience that we have had as a pass rusher in recent years. So I'm really excited to see what they do against better competition, especially once you get into Big Ten play. You can really make some noise, and it could really do some damage. So we will see uh, how they end up progressing throughout the season. Obviously, these first three games are going to be blowout games. They're going to be
Yeah.
games that are really not going to be able to tell you much. But one other positive that I really loved, Tate Martell. I've been high on him since last year. He scored a lovely score last week, and he also just played well. He had a few good catches. Um, and I mean, even Abuka was robbed of a touchdown earlier in that game as well, if you remember. Um, it was just one of those games that uh, you just need, especially as a week one, opponent. So I'm glad we got it done with. I'm glad they didn't struggle too much. Obviously, they're slow starters, but Ohio State's always been a slow starter. That's why I didn't geek about it on Twitter. So, um, obviously they play what is it, Western Michigan
Western
University?
Michigan up next. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that should be a very easy and winnable game for them. So we'll see how it happens. And as long as Ohio State can continue to beat teams that you should beat like that by a large margin, you will not hear it from fans. Because I think when Ohio State plays these small teams, if they don't blow them out by 50, they're shit. And that's
Yeah.
how Ohio State fans are. So if you're able to keep everybody happy, then I think everybody will be just fine. So, any last words before we move on to Browns talk? Because honestly, we both have the jerseys on. We're ready to talk NFL.
Yeah. No, I don't have much to say. Again, we play Western Michigan, then Marshall, and then we start getting to the nitty gritty of our schedule with Michigan State, and then number 21 and Iowa, and number 7 Oregon after that in the beginning of October. So I think once we start getting into October, that's when the true tests come in because again, you start playing Iowa and Oregon,
Yeah.
two top 20 teams in college football, and then obviously beginning of November and end of November, you have Penn State and Michigan. So a couple of difficult opponents, but these first 3 games, especially even going to Michigan State, these first 3-4 games should not be at all
Yeah,
anything difficult. So
absolutely.
we'll see what the true tests come. Like Zach said, when we play against Iowa, and then we go to Oregon the weekend after. So a lot of hopes, and we pray to God that guys like Cardell Tate and Abuka and Will Howard
Yeah,
and
and really
everybody,
like
yeah,
the
the
run
run
game
game,
starts to catch on a little bit because they kind of struggled running the ball. A
yeah,
little bit. Akron did pretty good against the run, so hopefully they can clean that up. I think it will help once we get our, I think it's our starting guard or tackle back. That will really help that right side of the ball. So,
yeah,
um,
just some growing pains,
yeah, absolutely.
just
So,
growing pains, nothing crazy.
so yeah, very good that we are through that, and now, my friends, it's time to get into some Browns talk,
Yeah.
because there's obviously been a lot of, I wouldn't even say hype. Um, it's more so uh, differences in opinions about how the Browns are going to do this year. We have heard
Yeah.
medias say they're going to go 9-8. And then you hear guys like us who are saying we can win up to 13 games this year if we are on our shit, and we have the talent to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of media counting us out to have one of the worst records in the division behind the Steelers. That's the only one that's going to be worse than us, they think. Everybody thinks the Bengals are going to come back and play much better, and I just don't see it personally.
Well, it's crazy too. Speaking on that, a lot of them even have the Steelers being a surprise playoff or wild card team as well. And they'll have like the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Steelers all making the playoffs, and then the Browns back and forth place, like mediocre. And it's like, do you just forget the kind of roster that we have? Did you forget that we had the number one defense last year and the best defense at home? Like at home, it was impossible for teams to score on the Browns.
Yeah.
Impossible. Like we would only give up, I think it was like an average of like 13 points. We would give up only like 100 and like was it like 20 passing yards, 130 passing yards. Like we would give up very little,
Oh yeah.
and everyone just was like just threw that out the window. Those performances out the window, and they're like, I think someone said I think it was on Pro Football Talk, I want to say, or one of these other shows, and they're like, yeah, I just don't think the Browns defense will just repeat what they did last year. And it's
Yeah.
like it's the same people. It's not like the defense changed. It's the same
Right.
players. So what do you mean they're not going to perform?
Yeah.
The one thing we're worried about is our offense. And I do like what Shannon Sharp said because Shannon Sharp did back the Browns this year,
Mm-hmm.
and he did say that if you can at least get 80% of Deshaun Watson,
Oh yeah.
then this team is going to be something crazy because 80% of the old Deshaun Watson is still a top 10 quarterback
Yeah.
in the NFL. And I believe that as well. And according to, I forget his Deshaun's like off-season coach's name. He's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
popular. He's pretty
Yeah.
popular. I can't remember
I
his
know you're talking
name.
about.
And he said Deshaun's arm this year looks better than it did before he got injured and before he was even like with Houston and when like he's throwing the ball harder, he's throwing it deeper, and they said his arm looks really good. So, and if that's the case, and if you could just blend that in with some great accuracy, like Shane sort of said, if you just get 80% of Deshaun Watson,
That's
this
enough. Yeah.
this offense is going to be scary,
Yeah.
especially with the addition of Jerry Judy. And everyone's projecting Jerome Ford to actually do pretty well. And don't get me wrong, Jerome Ford was solid last year. He was decent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was bad. Now, is he a good power rusher like Nick Chubb? No. Is he going to average over 100 yards rushing like Nick Chubb? No.
Yeah.
But you know what he does better than Nick Chubb? Catching passes,
Oh yeah.
wheel routes, getting like if Nick Chubb or is Jerome Ford can't get the ball rolling on the ground, you got options just to throw him out there and just give him a couple screen passes. Again, you could probably switch up him and Dante Foreman or Deontay
Yep.
Foreman to have him run the ball a little bit. But the one thing that I like about this offense is there's so many different things you can do with it. There's so many different players, and it's crazy to see what Kevin Stefanski and um why am I blanking on the OC's name? Oh, Ken Dorsey. I don't know
Yeah,
why I was blanking on his name.
yeah,
Um, I can't wait to see the Ken Dorsey and Stefanski made playbook. The only downfall is Tyler Huntley going back
yeah,
to Baltimore, and he knows the playbook, he knows the offense, and that's kind of that's kind of sus and scary. Like,
yeah. Pissed me off a little bit.
I think that the Ravens knew what they were doing. They're like, we'll just bring back Huntley, and we'll have him give us the offensive playbook at the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
So I'm sure they're scribbling in the book, maybe trying to change a couple things just to make sure it looks a little different,
yeah,
or they might have some kills to make sure that
yep,
Tyler Huntley didn't know about. And so if they look and Tyler Huntley was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna run this," and you could kill it immediately and do something else.
yeah, yeah. I'm always curious as to how much of the playbook that they actually installed during training camp because of that
Hmm.
reason. Like you really do wonder how much they hide because you have to imagine they're going to add more throughout the season anyway, just to be unique and different and have trick plays or just plays that you can change right at the line and it will drastically change what it was. And
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how much they do, and that is a weird thought, but
I,
um,
and I'm sure they changed the playbook quite a bit since he
yeah,
left too.
I think so
So
too.
there's probably a lot that Huntley doesn't know about that we've inserted.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we'll
So
see.
yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's going to be an issue when we do play them, honestly,
No.
because it's going to be a little while before we play the Ravens, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, honestly, a pretty big game for us. Week 1 against the Cowboys. They just finally signed CeeDee Lamb. That was a very big topic throughout the season about uh, if they were going to be able to sign him. Was he going to be a trade piece? It was even rumored of being like, hey, do we want to send Amari Cooper back in a pick and try to get CD like that? That was a not even a rumor, just like fake a fictitious world that the Browns fans like to live in sometimes, where we create these crazy trade uh, rumors or just trade ideas and people just sort of grasp at it, and it was cool, but it wasn't gonna happen. But Dallas is who they are. Um, I would not say they are as good as they have been in the past because I don't like their O line a whole lot, and their run game is pretty weak, in my opinion. They really don't
Hmm.
have a defined running back one. I mean, they have Zeke back, but he's also 30. They just brought in Dalvin Cook. I don't even think he's going to play. And I know that Dowdle kid is going to technically probably be running back one for them. Not as proven. And so when you look at their offense and then you look at our offense, we also have a year under our belt under this offense. And theoretically speaking, it should be better. So what I'm really worried about is the defensive side of the ball. I really want to see this Browns team show up in the run game and really show out against the pass because I tell you what, as long as you can stop the passing game against Dallas anyway, it's really going to be hard for Dallas to do anything in this game. That's their bread and butter. They know Dak can throw the ball 40 times. And one of the last times we played them, he threw for almost 50 times, I think. So what is your sort of expectation or want, I guess, that you really want to see out of this game in week 1? Because there's a lot of people saying that this could like decide, sort of how the year is going to go for us. I don't think it's that deep, but beating a good Dallas team in week 1 at home, it's really going to set the pace for another fun season for us.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people need to stop panicking after game one. I think panicking after game one is such a dumb ideology that people have. Like, if we lose to the Cowboys, it's game over. Like, the Cowboys are a great playoff team, like, are a great team and a playoff team. So we can't discredit anything that they do. It's
Yeah.
not like it's week one and you're playing the Arizona Cardinals and you're scared. And if you lose, then you could be kind of scared a little bit that this team is going to go forward. But we're playing the Dallas Cowboys. For me, this is probably going to be a very defensive heavy matchup,
Yeah.
regardless, because again, we have offensive line issues. We just got news that Jed Wills is not going to be playing on Sunday. So it looks like it's going to be DeJuan Jones and Jack Conklin. Not Tyler Conklin, the tight end for the Jets. Jack Conklin, the right tackle for the Browns. But well, now he's going to move to left tackle in the absence of Jed Wills. So we're going to see how that moves because he's going to match up against Micah Parsons, and that might be
That's no easy feat.
That's no easy feat. So that's a matchup to watch out for is Conklin versus Parsons. Yeah. I personally might have put DeJuan Jones on Parsons just because DeJuan Jones is a bigger body.
Yeah.
But Parsons can get low on him and just sneak past him. So I do see why they want Conklin on him. But I think this is going to be a true testament to the Browns defense game one immediately because we need to come out and do the same shit we did last year. Number one defense, come out, guns blazing, just right off the rip, just start attacking Dak Prescott, get him shaken. Dak's playing for another contract again because the Cowboys did not re-sign his contract. They restructured his contract, but they didn't re-sign Dak Prescott. Yeah. So Dak Prescott is on his last year with the Cowboys. So Dak is now playing for a contract, and he's probably going to be a little worked up about it. So Dak might be a little fluttered about it and might be a little pissed off. So if you can get to him early, he's not going to play well for the rest of the game.
No.
Because he's probably going to be too upset and too focused on him not getting that contract like CD got.
Yeah.
And you got to attack it because the thing is, I doubt they're going to run the ball because they're not going to utilize Zeke a whole lot. It's not the Zeke of the past.
Yeah.
This is a very beaten up and old Zeke now. I don't know how good Rico Dowdle is going to be. They got rid of Tony Pollard at Tennessee, so their best backup running back is gone.
Yeah.
We know nothing about Rico Dowdle except for the fact that he's supposedly been solid in camp, but again, what can we trust about the news? So Rico Dowdle could actually be one of the worst backups in the league, and we would never know, but
yeah.
They're not going to run the ball at all, essentially, is what I'm saying. They're going to be throwing it heavy, and they're going to be throwing it to their recently signed CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
And we obviously, Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson are going to do everything in their power to lock him up. Because, again, outside of CeeDee Lamb, the only receiver they got really is Jake Ferguson, the tight end.
Well, and I think they do have...
they have Brandon Cooks.
But he's old.
But, again, he's old. Brandon Cooks is old. So... you're going to have Martin Emerson probably on Brandon Cooks, and you're probably going to have, obviously, Denzel Ward guarding CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And as long as you can lock those two up, Dak's going to have to force something.
Yeah.
Because if he sees that neither of those two downfield, who are you going to throw the ball to?
Yeah.
And he's going to scramble a lot. So I know a lot of people like the Cowboys in this game, but there's a reason why the Browns are favored by 2.5.
Yeah.
And it's because, number one, they're at home, and number two, the defense has been elite at home.
Yeah.
And if we could put pressure on Dak Prescott and put him on him early, the Cowboys are going to find it hard to score, and they're going to have to rely solely on their defense to get them through the game. And if the Browns offense can get off to a quick hot start early, it could be done and dusted for the Cowboys right off the rip. And I'm not saying we're going to smoke them. This is definitely going to be a very, very tight game. It's going to be very aggravating. It's going to be very close. It might turn into a shootout type game. But again, I don't trust that Dallas offensive line. It's old. It's worn down. I think I want to take a look at their offensive line and see what left they have of it.
Yeah.
Because as their list of starters, they still have Zach Martin, and Zach Martin is 34 years old.
Yep.
So he's getting up there in age. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still a Pro Bowl tackle or a Pro Bowl guard. They have Terrence Steele, who is in his 5th season, but I think he's been kind of bouncing around the league.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been much of anything, and he's going to be 28 during the season. Cooper Beebe, who is, I believe, a rookie guard for them. So this is going to be the first, and he's a third round pick. So this is going to be his first action. Tyler Smith, again, another kind of young, active rookie that they got in the first round in 2022. Or
Yeah.
excuse me, he's not rookie, but in 2022. And then they still have Tyler Guyton. Again, a rook. This is the one they got in the first round this year with the 29th pick. So mixed with Zach Martin and Terrence Steele, it's a lot of young guys up front.
Yeah.
And you have two rookies up front. I don't know if they're gonna hold Myles Garrett. They're gonna hold Zadarius Smith. Mo Hurst. It's gonna be hard to hold these guys up.
Yeah.
And so, if the Cowboys want to win and get off to a hot start early, Dak's gonna have to make very quick throws, and they're gonna have to do a lot of quick slants and quick, outs and quick ins, and they're gonna have to run a lot of quick passing plays because I don't know how well that offensive line is gonna hold up Myles Garrett and these other guys. And we saw what what the defense did last year with Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
We saw them put him in the middle and have him attack the middle, and they could very well do that. They could put Myles Garrett against Beatty right in the middle and just have him bull rush right through him and get to Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
They could put him with one of the other two rookies and let him just tear him up. So Dallas has got to be careful because Myles Garrett's going to be moving across that offense, across that line, and he's going to make sure that he gets he's going to get somewhere where he can win.
Oh yeah.
And obviously the rest of the offense or defensive line like Mo Hurst and Zadarius Smith, they're going to get theirs too.
It's going to be ugly for them. Like they are really going to have to find a way to get the ball out quickly. And the only benefit that they have going for them in comparison to what the Bengals had to deal with against us in week 1 is the weather. The weather's going to be beautiful on Sunday. So it looks like it's going to be a high of 67, partly cloudy skies. Doesn't look like there's going to be any rain at all. Okay, it says 20% precipitation, but that means nothing.
No.
So it might sprinkle a little bit, but it's not going to be like last year's week 1 where it was cold, it was windy, and it was rainy the whole fucking day, and it gave us such an advantage, and it put JoJo Burrow in such a bind. And again, I think if the Browns can come out with the same swagger that they did at the start of the season, with these corners and just our DBs, they are phenomenal against the pass. And I think these guys actually have a lot to prove this year because they played really well for a majority of the year last year. And then against that game against Houston, they choked. Like they did not play up to par. The only guy that came to play last year was JOK. Like that was the only guy on defense that we had last year in that playoff game that showed up. So they really do, and they really should think about coming out with revenge. Like that's what their motto really should be. So I'm just really excited to see that swagger come back, and that's my hope for this defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of things, obviously, I think everybody can agree the one thing that we are looking at, no matter what, is always going to be if Deshaun Watson can return to form. And you were saying how he has looked pretty good, and that's because he has actually looked pretty freaking good. This guy is going to be a dog. I really do think his arm looks better than it has in a while. I've been saying for a while now that I actually think his throwing motion has changed a little bit. It looks a little bit tighter and a little more natural, and there's less of a jump. Like he used to be so jittery, and he seems a little more calm in the pocket. I don't know if that's just because he's in practice or what. We're obviously going to see if that's true in this game on Sunday. But if he can be more naturally just chill in the pocket, I think it will do him wonders, and it will create a much more accurate throw every single time. Because when he's doing the hopping around and doing that, I really think it can really throw off your motion. And last year he really threw it more like a baseball, and it really pissed me off the way he would throw. So with the changes that he made, I think it can really benefit him, and I really hope it does for our sake because, I mean, I'm sure you can agree to this. The conversation of him not playing in the preseason and all that. You want to talk about a topic that has just been beat over the head constantly back and forth between people. That's been it. And it's been one of the most frustrating things to just watch and hear about every single day. And I have to imagine that you are just as furious about that as I am.
Yeah, no, dude, it's crazy. I, I'm just ready for Deshaun Watson to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, I'm too.
I'm so ready for him to prove everyone wrong because I'm tired of everyone saying the reason why we're gonna suck this year is Deshaun Watson. And number one, there's more than just Deshaun Watson. We have again a great offense and a great defense. Um, there's a reason why we made the playoffs with 5 separate quarterbacks.
Right.
Very good reason why. It's because we have great offensive line, great talent, great offensive talent, and we made the playoffs without the likes of Nick Chubb. We made the playoffs without the likes of half our offensive line. Mm-hmm. We've missed a couple receivers here and there throughout the year. We've missed a lot of people. And that's just on the offense. That's on both sides of the football.
Yeah.
And then you get the excuses from everyone. Well, you played a 4th place schedule. Doesn't matter. We played the same teams as everyone else.
Yeah.
So just because we won and they didn't doesn't mean shit because we still played the same teams. They're just still the same teams that the Cowboys might have played. They're just still the same teams that the Chiefs might have played because it's like, oh, yeah, the Chiefs beat the Tennessee Titans. Well, so did we. And everyone's like, well, because your 4th place schedule and the Titans are ass. And it's like, but you didn't say that when the Chiefs won. You didn't say that when Baltimore beat them. You ain't say that when the Cowboys beat them. Only when the Browns beat them. Well, it's because the Titans are ass and you're playing a 4th place schedule. Okay. The same team that those 3 teams played and they beat and they almost lost to, we destroyed them. They almost got their asses kicked by them.
Yeah.
So it's the same squad. Just because we played differently, just because we had different people, just because we're playing a 4th place schedule compared to a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 1st, whatever, I don't give a shit. It's the same squad. Yep, same team. And guess what? Deshaun Watson's going to come out of here. He's going to look good. He's going to come out here throwing some darts. He's got a brand new wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy. And that's all you need, man. The offensive line is back and healthy beside Jed Wills. And even then, I don't think that's a concern much for anyone.
Yeah.
I think that's not much of a concern for me. This is a guy who's probably going to be gone by the next season. And we're back with DeJuan Jones. We're back with Jack Conklin. Joe Bitonio still there. Wyatt still there. You still have Luke Weipler. You have Nick Harris.
You have Pochich.
You still have Hudson.
You added Zinter as well, who
added
I
Zach
think
Zinter.
is going to be a phenomenal guard for us
exactly.
in the future. But yeah, I mean, you said one name that I'm really going to watch out for this weekend is going to be Jerry Jeudy. MKC today said that he should have a big game and a big impact on this game. I am not going to be surprised if he ends up getting more receptions than Cooper does week 1. I just think Jerry Jeudy has a lot to prove, and I don't blame the kid. And Deshaun seems to love him, and I think they're just going to have that sort of deep ball threat that they finally can have. We've needed it for so long. We've tried different guys out, different styles of players out to fill that role, and it hasn't been it. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that you can take the top off with. He's fast enough to do it. He's big enough to do it. Coop can too, but Coop isn't as fast. And I mean, Elijah Moore is faster, but not as big. And you still have Tillman, who has that capability. He's taller. He's not super fast. And then you obviously have Jamari Thrash as well, who is another guy. Not sure how much action he's going to see, But if he gets a chance and he makes a good impression, I think a lot of Browns fans are going to fall in love with him because he's just very quick, and as long as he doesn't have problems catching the ball, he's going to fit right into the offense.
Yeah.
It's really going to come down to the run game. Last year as we got more into the year, unless we were facing an AFC North opponent, Jerome Ford did not run the ball well. He was able to catch the ball well, and he was next to CMC in terms of receiving touchdowns for running backs. I believe at 5 for the year. So he made his impact still, and there's a lot of talk about him also having a pretty big year for us. And even when Chubb comes back, I think he's still going to be a big part of the team, and as he should. But this is his chance to really prove it.
Yeah.
Are there any other guys that I didn't really list that you were really excited to see play again? And this can be on the defensive side of the ball because, again, we had, what was it, 20% of our entire starting lineup on IR last year at
Yeah.
one point. Like we lost so many guys that I think we forget just how stacked this Browns team can really be if they're fully healthy.
So I actually have two people in mind that I want to say. The
Mhm.
first guy that I have in mind is Martin Emerson.
Yeah.
I think Martin Emerson is a cornerback one on any other team in the NFL.
Oh,
I like very easily, and I think it doesn't matter if you put CD on him, Brandon Cooks on him. I don't think it matters because I think Martin Emerson can lock up anyone in the league. He locked up Justin Jefferson. He's locked up Jamar Chase a couple times. He's locked up some big names in the last year.
oh yeah.
So my number one, I'm still so excited to see Martin Emerson play and continue to grow. The one that I'm praying to see perform, my second guy, is Juan Thornhill.
Yeah.
This is the captain. This is your leader on defense. Um, he's the one who's calling the shots. Essentially, he's way in the back. He's looking at everything. He was phenomenal when he was with Kansas City, and obviously, new team had a little bit of a down year, and that happens. We all understand, but
Injuries was what really
injuries
killed
ruined
him.
injuries ruined everything. But I'm excited to see Juan Thornhill. I'm hoping he gets back to that kind of Pro Bowl caliber, Super Bowl winner that he is, and he just comes out here and he's just a part of that no fly zone that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what our DBs and what our safeties do because I think they were a very crucial part of why we were so good last year, why we were so successful. I mean, continuing to lock down massive big name receivers, tight ends, you know, people would like to forget about them, but we love him here in Cleveland because again, even Greg Newsome, yeah, he had a bad playoff game. That's the one game everyone wants to remember from Greg
Yeah.
Newsome was, and essentially a lot of those were his fault because they said at the end of the game and afterwards that there was zero communication on the field and that he was where he was supposed to be, but no one communicated him about something else that was going to happen, and then
Yeah.
he got burnt on routes and stuff like that. So I don't blame that game on Newsome because again, Newsome's a very talented and very good corner, and again, he was a big reason why we were where we were last year.
Yeah.
So my big the big people that I want to see is the DBs just going back to work in the free safeties. So mine's the secondary. I'm excited to see what the secondary can do. Again, they have a job to do on Sunday. I know they have one top receiver and another kind of old but still decent receiver in Brandon Cooks. As long as they can lock them up and force Dak to make poor throws or force balls downfield where you can have Juan Thornhill or some of these other guys jumping up and making picks, McLeod, whoever out there, we're all good. And one more guy I'd love to see, again, is my boy JOK. I think he's going to have a phenomenal another season here. I think he's going to scream down the middle a couple of these plays and try and get to Dak Prescott, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did so.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna say I think the one guy on defense that I'm really looking to take that next step is JOK. He had a
Yeah,
phenomenal year last year, one of the
earned the
top
contract.
guys. Yeah, and he's really gonna earn that contract. And I really want to see him take that next step. I do want to see how Jordan Hicks affects this defense as
Yeah.
well. I really want to see if there's a major difference in communication. Also bringing back uh, Ronnie McLeod. I think he
Yeah.
was great in the in the DB room last year. I think he was a big part of the early communication that we had. And when he got hurt, I think it actually did a lot more worse uh, uh, stuff on us than just having to lose him. I think his communication gave us a true advantage because he's a pro. I mean, he's been around forever. So
Yeah.
him and
Can't
then
forget about Grant Delpit either.
no, no, and when I go back to the offense, I think the guy that I'm really excited about, I think he's gonna have a big year, is honestly Njoku.
Yeah.
I think Njoku has the chance to be a 1,000 yard, uh, you know, receiver this year in tight end. I really want to see him and Watson click because I'm telling you what, if you can get Njoku involved early and often, especially in the red zone, there isn't too many teams that are going to be able to stop him. He's just too athletic. He's too big, and that should be an advantage that you should want to take advantage of every single time. And he's also fast enough to make big plays. I mean, you saw it, last year, especially with Flacco. He made some phenomenal plays towards the end of the year, and I really want to see him continue that. But with Watson, and if those two can connect, like I said, this offense is going to be scary if they can really find a way to connect that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, there's going to be a lot of guys that we're going to expect doing some really good work, and honestly, I think we're just more so just excited that the season's back, and I think that's ultimately what Browns fans care about. Sunday's going to be nice, and it really sucks that this game is going to be a 3:30 game. I'm pissed that we got to wait 2 hours after kickoff just for the Browns to play.
It's the 4 o'clock game, isn't it?
I think it's 3:30. It's either
Four
3:30 or
thirty.
4. Is it 4:30? That's even worse.
Yep. four
Oh my.
twenty-five.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Um,
Fuck.
the
Which
one thing
means
I
it's
do.
just prime time. I mean,
Yeah.
get that.
Well, it's gonna be the most prime time because the other game in prime time at 4:30 is like Tampa Bay and like the
Right.
New York Giants or Jets or some shit. Like nothing crazy or exciting. Everyone's gonna be focused on the Browns and Cowboys game. Um, the one thing I do want to mention too, and this is one thing we forgot about the Cowboy defense, is the Cowboys defense is good for a while. It's gonna be missing Deron Bland,
Yeah.
their best corner. Um, a guy who had 9 picks last year is on the IR right now with an injury, and that really hurts them, and that helps Deshaun Watson because they have in the back is Kalen Carson, who was a 5th round pick this year, and they're gonna probably test him quite a bit. He's listed as a starter. They have Donovan Wilson. Again, a guy who hasn't shown much in the last couple of years, has gotten a lot of tackles, but not very good when it comes to man marking or any defensive work besides just tackles. They have Malik Hooker. Obviously, we know a lot about Malik Hooker, former Ohio State Buckeye. 1st round pick as well, but again, down year. Got a lot of team tack or total tackles, but a lot of them were assisted tackles. Again, nothing super crazy from Malik Hooker in the last couple of years. Then they have Trevon Diggs. Now everyone remembers Trevon Diggs. Like 2 years ago, had the 11 interception season. He was a Pro Bowler. He looked really good. Well, last year he only had 1 pick,
He tore
and
his ACL.
yeah, and he tore his ACL. So again, Trevon Diggs is coming back from ACL injury. He's probably not going to be fully 100% in this game. So the Browns, again, even though
Yeah.
we have a good run game, they're probably going to be looking to attack the secondary
Yeah.
against the Cowboys. Because again, the last guy they have on the field at corner is Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Because
again,
didn't they lose somebody else too for like the next 6 to 8 weeks?
yep. And
Yeah.
Jordan Lewis, nothing to be scared of. Again, a lot of their guys are great at tackling.
Yeah.
But nobody jumping up air, stopping passes, making big plays. They're just going out there and just making routine tackles. So this is definitely an offense, or the Browns offense is definitely going to be attacking them. I think the Browns offense is going to be running a lot of, again, short, maybe mid routes with an
Yeah.
occasional deep ball to Jerry Jeudy to try and attack. And they might put Jerry Jeudy on Trevon Diggs
Yeah.
because he just came back from an ACL injury. They might have him burn down the sideline against them and see if he can catch up. Maybe you get a couple deep balls down there and test the waters. They might put Amari Cooper on him, and Amari Cooper will probably re-tear that ACL for Trevon Diggs with the way he runs routes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fun matchup. I think both teams are going to be playing two very different styles of offenses. I think the Browns are going to be, well, I think both teams are going to be very heavy passing offense. I
Yeah.
also think the Browns are going to be rushing the ball a little bit because the defensive line of the Cowboys is okay outside of Michael Parsons.
Yeah.
It's just okay. It's nothing crazy. But I'm just excited to see what Deshaun Watson does. I want to see that arm in week 1. I want to see him attack the air, attack that second weakened secondary that they have. Again, you got to take advantage of that no Deron Bland.
Yeah.
And just throw some stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean that's all. That's ultimately going to be the biggest difference. Is
Mhm.
if Deshaun Watson shows up and he plays well, this game is a lock for Week 1. Like
Yeah.
it really should. We are still going to give credit to Dallas because Dallas is good enough to win this game, and they have
Very
good
good football
players.
team.
But they have weaknesses, and they have more weaknesses than we do, in my opinion. It's just the weaknesses that we have are more so like 50-50 balls. Like you really don't know which version of that person you're going to get. We don't know
Yeah.
how Conklin's going to play. We don't know how Deshaun's going to play. We don't know how Jeudy is going to connect. We don't know how certain guys are going to play until they get out there. And that's what makes this fun. But it's a fun, like solid week 1 matchup for us. And I'm just really excited to see football, on my screen, especially tomorrow, starting out, again with that game. It's just gonna be a fun weekend, and so I really can't complain. So getting to the end of this podcast here, we wanted to do something a little bit different, and I actually want to ask you if you prefer to do our favorite bets or our week 1 predictions. Because so before we get into this, we're going to start doing this every week now. We're going to go through the list of scheduled games that are playing for the week. We're going to guess wins. We aren't going to guess score predicts until we get to the Browns game, which will end with that one. But we are just going to keep a personal record with each other of what our predicts look like from the beginning of the season to the end. And so we're going to do that as well.
And we're gonna do this, and while we do this, I'm actually gonna right now I'm gonna pull up a Google sheet
Good idea.
and keep track of um our guesses here. So we're gonna put in week 1, and then we're just gonna put. I'm just gonna throw the games on as we kind of just go along. So Zach, if you want to go ahead and I'm gonna put our names up here as well. I'm gonna just put Andrew and Zach, and we're going to go through all the games, and I'm just gonna type them in as we go along, so that way we have these. So the first game we have is obviously Baltimore and Kansas City on Thursday. So Zach, if you want to go ahead and tell the people what your predict is going to be.
Yeah. So I was gonna try to share the screen, but it's not letting me for the week 1
I could
matchups.
I
Yeah,
could
if
share
you
the screen for the weekly matchup.
yeah, if you want to do that, just so that way they can see that too.
We're going to. Oh, yeah.
We probably should have done this beforehand, but we're just
We
BSing here, so we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. There's the week 1 slate. I'm just gonna kind of type the team names in as we go along,
Okay.
and
So yeah, obviously for the game tomorrow, it's toss up. Um, I I really want to say I'm gonna say Baltimore wins this game.
you got
Um,
Baltimore.
I think so. I just they lost, you know, in a close game last year, and I think they're gonna come in pissed off, and I think the Ravens are gonna play. Plus, Kansas City doesn't start the year off well. Usually, they're gonna be hyped up for the ring ceremony and whatnot. But once it calms down and the Ravens get into their offense, I just don't know if Kansas City's defense is gonna be good enough to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar. I'm a little interested with that duo right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens.
Well, this is where we're first going to be opposites. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs,
Cool.
the
I like
reigning
that.
Super Bowl champions. I just think this offense is beyond amazing. I think their defense again is one of the best in the league. Um, the one thing that the Ravens missed out on during the I think it was it the AFC Championship game they last played against each other in.
Yeah.
The Ravens had the opportunity to attack the Kansas City weakness on defense, which is the run game of Kansas City. Or Kansas City's run defense was like bottom half of the league.
Yeah.
And Baltimore decided they were just going to continue to air it the hell out and try and just go deep every single play, try to catch them off the back foot. And Kansas City's secondary is one of the best in the league. Kansas City's passing defense is one of the best in the NFL. And I think that was the big mistake that Baltimore made was trying to air it out, and I think they're gonna try it again in this game because again I think everyone wants a fun, exciting matchup, so everyone's gonna want to shoot out.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna retry that, and I don't think it's gonna work in their favor. I think Patrick Mahomes is obviously a lot better than Lamar Jackson. I think the weapons are just a lot better. I think Baltimore's defense got a bit weaker when losing guys like Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
Um, So I definitely like Kansas City, and I still think it's gonna be a very very close and tight game, but I think Kansas City are gonna win it, especially if it's in Kansas City, which I think it's in Kansas because all the teams on the right hand side are at home and the teams on the left are on the road. So the game's at Kansas City, and that's even just a more difficult atmosphere to play in. Is that
Yeah.
Kansas City atmosphere? So I'm gonna tip my hat to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah. Total respect there. So next, we obviously have the Friday night game, Eagles at Green Bay. I think this one's a little bit easier for me to predict. I'm saying Eagles. The addition of Saquon Barkley has to be good for them, and they obviously have a lot of guys on that offense that are weapons. I mean, they have AJ Brown, they have Devonta Smith, they now have Jonah Dotson as well. Jalen Hurts is still there, in a much more improved defense, and they're healthier this year. Green Bay, they still have some question marks, I think. Although I'm pretty high on Jordan Love. I do think he's a solid quarterback. Um, I just don't know if they're going to be enough against the Eagles. So I'm going to go Eagles here.
Okay. Again, I think this is where we share the same opinion. I'm also going to go with the Eagles. I know that this game is being played in Sao Paulo, Brazil, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think they're an overall better team than the Green Bay Packers. Don't get me wrong, the Packers made some noise last year.
Oh yeah,
Jordan Love made noise last year, beating the hell out of the Dallas Cowboys, which everyone in the league loved. We all loved seeing that. But but I just think that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are just the overall better squad. And I think it's just gonna be really hard to take down a team like the Eagles, especially considering this is gonna be an Eagles home game, air quotes. Um so yeah, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their offense and defense are just a lot better. I'm still kind of sketched out about the Green Bay Packer defense. I don't know if they're really a top tier defense. I think they're just more of a middle of a road towards the bottom half defense.
yeah, I agree.
And a team like the Packers can't just be carried solely by their offense.
Absolutely. So yeah, next we got actually a few sort of snooze fest type of games. Um, I think New Orleans wins against the Panthers, and I'm gonna say the Vikings should beat New York, but New York's defense is pretty freaking good, and I think that's gonna help them. It just depends on how Sam Darnold plays, but they still got Jay Jetta. They just don't have really a run game. Well, actually, no, they do have a run game. Vikings,
Yep.
100%.
All right. So you want New Orleans and Minnesota?
Yeah.
I am also going to go New Orleans, and I am also going to go with um Minnesota as well. I just again for New Orleans, it's you're playing the Carolina Panthers. That should just be a chalked up W right then and there. Like
It
there should
should.
be it
Yeah.
should easily be a chalked up W unless somehow some way Marvin Harrison and Kyle Murray connect effective immediately and they just become like the best duo in the league.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen overnight. I think it's gonna take some weeks to get that going. So I personally like Minnesota in this game as well. Again, their run game is solid. Their their pass game, they have Jay Jettas, which Sam Darnold and I think Jordan Addison has been activated for week 1 as well, I
Okay.
believe. So that again, that also helps the Minnesota Vikings. So they have everyone. The only person they don't have is TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, JJ McCarthy went down injured. So that's a little bit of a blow for the quarterback play. But I mean, Sam Darnold has been in the league since 2018 now. So
And
I
Danny
think,
Dimes had a rough preseason.
and Danny Dimes had a very rough preseason. And this guy should probably just be cut no matter what,
Yeah.
essentially, because this guy's just absolutely horrible.
Dude's
But
owed a lot of money, and
and
he's
he's
not
owed
gonna live up to
bank.
it. Yeah.
Yep, he's owed bank, and he's not living up to anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I like Minnesota. I just think they're overall better than the Giants, and I just think the Giants are going to be severely overrated. But you know what? Their their first round draft pick of Malik Neighbors.
Yes.
I think he's going to be an exciting watch this year. So it's not all bad for the Giants, but I mean Minnesota should not have a hard time going to the Meadowlands and taking care of
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. So totally agree there. And then next we got a couple more interesting and probably snooze fest games. The Bengals should beat the Pats pretty easily, especially if Jamar Chase plays. If Jamar Chase doesn't play, it might be a little bit closer. But I just don't think the Pats are going to be good this year. I literally think the Pats are going to win 4 games max this year. It's going to be a rough one for them. They're going to be tanking. They're going to have Brissett take a beating. So that way Drake May can eventually start and maybe he does well. But I just don't think the Pats have enough weapons on offense to really give him a chance. Uh, so I'm saying Bengals, and then I actually think Atlanta's going to beat the Steelers. Whenever they played Russell Wilson or Fields, that offense looked very stagnant, and they did not look impressive to me. I don't think the Steelers really made enough changes to really be a good team on offense. They're going to be a good team on defense, like they always are, and it's going to keep it close. Atlanta has a ton of weapons, and if they use them correctly, Atlanta will actually be a scary team this year. No cap at all. So I'm saying Bengals and I'm saying Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is where we come into um I think this is where we come into agreements once again. I personally also have the Cincinnati Bengals over the Patriots. Again, Joe Burrow, even unfully healthy Joe Burrow, should probably still be able to handle the New England Patriots with relative ease. Again, Jamar Chase has practiced today, so I think he's gearing up for week 1. And he's probably gonna practice tomorrow and practice and get some work in Saturday, I'm sure,
Yeah.
to get ready for Sunday. I knew he wasn't gonna hold out for game 1. I think everyone knew he was gonna play.
Yeah.
So with Jamar Chase and Joey B, I just think that's too much for the New England Patriots already. And again, it's in Cincinnati and New England with a rookie QB, rookie head coach, and Gerard Mayo. I just don't think it's going to work out too well. The only bright spot right now, it seems to be, is Jalen Polk and Ramondre Stevenson. I think those are the only two exciting things that they have going on in New England, and that's about it. And Drake May, but that's about it. And then, for the Atlanta and Steelers game, again, I'm going to Atlanta. Again, the game's in Atlanta. I always like to favor the home team just a little bit.
Especially week one.
Especially week one, because week one, usually, I think the home team wins I think it's 90% of the time in week one or something like that. I think it's some crazy stat.
Yeah.
So I personally agree with you. I think Atlanta wins. Again, just a better overall team. Bijan Robinson's an absolute beast, and Tyler Algier is another 1,000-yard rusher right behind him. So again, they got two insanely good running backs. Kirk Cousins, again, overall just really good, and that's going to elevate the likes of Drake London and Kyle Pitts as well. So
that Darnell Mooney too.
Darnell Mooney, and they don't have Arthur Smith anymore.
Yep.
In fact, they're facing Arthur Smith on the opposite side.
That's right.
Because Arthur Smith is now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they're gonna be facing Arthur Smith. So
that's why the Steelers' offense looks like shit. that's funny.
It's Matt Canada 2.0 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think the Falcons' offense is better. The defense of the Steelers is obviously still going to be very insane because Mike Tomlin just does amazing work with that defense.
Yeah.
They just got Cam Hayward to sign another. I think it's like a 3-year deal.
A 3-year deal. Yep.
So Hayward's locked up again for another few years. I was really hoping he would come to Cleveland.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be kind of dope. But him and J.J. Watt will make some noise for sure. But I don't think it's going to be enough to carry that absolutely dreadful offense they have. That offensive line looks god awful. The most mid battle of QBs between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Someone posted the workouts that they were doing for practice the other day, like just like the stretches, and like 90% of the players like half-assed them. Yeah. So I don't know if the Steelers are just like the whole vibe of the Steelers just completely changed. They're like once like the most like aggressive and like we're gonna kill you type teams, and now they're just like we don't give two fucks anymore. That's like weird. They just completely switched up, especially under Mike Tomlin, which is weird because Mike Tomlin is usually a very strict and like very like if you don't do this you're off the team type of head coach. Yeah. But I don't know, the vibes have changed. I don't think Russ has got it anymore. He's under a bad offensive line, which didn't help him last year in Denver. He's got a mid running back in Najee Harris. The only good thing he has is George Pickens.
Yeah,
and that's
and
all
Freiermuth, I guess. I mean, Freiermuth's good. He's a tall, he's a big target for them. He should be a good red zone target, but it's not like he's a
no. And unless Roman Wilson somehow shines, but I don't see that happening. And again, maybe the only other bright spot is Jaylen Warren, and he's just went down with an injury. So
yeah, exactly.
That I think Atlanta should be able to handle the Pittsburgh Steelers with relative ease.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, I personally think that Fields is going to start some way mid through the season, maybe even before mid-season. Russell Wilson just looks cooked, dude. Like he just doesn't look like the same, and it's kind of sad, honestly, because he was so fun in Seattle, and as soon as he left Seattle, it's just like whatever he was able to do in Seattle with Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll got the absolute best out of him, and that's just how it's going to be. So, totally agree with you there. So on to the next two games here, and this is when I think games start getting better. There's some much better games. Texans and the Colts. That I think is going to be one of the more fun games, especially at that 1:00 hour. And then you got Arizona and the Bills. I am going to say the Texans beat the Colts, although I think it will be close. The Texans just improved their defense too much, and they obviously added Stephon Diggs. It sounds like he's in a better mental space, and second year of CJ Stroud should be dynamite. They have everybody back. They improved their line. They've continued to build well. The Texans are going to be a tough team this year, and rightfully should, and that's what we get for getting Watson is being able to lose out on a guy like Stroud. But yeah, I definitely think Houston wins this game. It will be tight. I just wasn't impressed with Anthony Richardson. I just didn't think he looked that well, and I don't know how good that shoulder is going to be on him and for how long. So I'm saying Houston, and then I think the Bills. Cardinals are going to be better this year, but the Bills should beat them in Week 1 here. Um, but I would not be surprised if the Cardinals sneak out this game. I think this is one of the first trap games, but I am just going to say Bills here.
Yeah, for my couple of choices, I'm gonna go with Houston as well. I think Indy might cover. I forget the spread of the Indianapolis game, but I think the Colts might be able to cover the spread. But I think again, Houston's going to take over. I think Houston's going to win that game with win that game. C.J. Stroud, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, crazy scary offense. They added Joe Mixon to that too, which is even crazier. Their defense looks really good. Like it completely turned around Houston Texans team. I think they should be able to handle the Colts. Excuse me. And then I am also in agreement with you. I think it's Buffalo all the way against the Cardinals. Again, we talked about how the Cardinals are. Again, they're still kind of in that almost rebuild mode.
Yeah.
A little bit, and you just got back the little man from injury, Kyler Murray. So again, I personally don't. I personally just don't like um the Arizona Cardinals right now, and I think they're going to be faded for quite a bit going forward. So I just I just don't like the Cardinals at all. Just give me Buffalo, especially again at home. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Cardinals will have a few good players that will play well this year. It's just not gonna give them wins. Like Marvin Harrison is gonna do well. Trey McBride is one of the like top 3 tight ends I think on most fantasy drafts. Um, you know, and even Trey Benson is like one of my guys that are like low key guys to really watch out for this year. So I mean they have players, but yeah, they're still going to be in some sort of rebuild. I don't think their offensive line really improved that much, and it's just going to be another fun season for Kyler. So yeah, I am total agreement with you there. So next, Titans and Bears. This is going to be a fun one. And then Miami Jacksonville. That's also another fun one. So um, I think the Bears are going to win this one, but I think Tennessee is going to play a lot better. I've heard their other offense looks a ton better this year. Second year of Will Levis should be better for them. I know they added some guys. They obviously added Calvin Ridley to that offense. They have a different running back room now, but that, Tyja Spears, I think is his name, sounds like he's going to do really well. But I just think Chicago has just a lot more talent right now. And it's not like they were a bad team with Fields. And I got to admit, I think we might be wrong on what we said about Williams because so far he has looked solid. So I'm saying Bears there. And then I'm going to say Miami just because I'm not that high on on freaking Jacksonville and I'm not that high on Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going Miami and Bears on this one.
Okay. Hey, I don't mind those picks at all. I think for me personally, I am also going to go with the Chicago Bears. Again, I think being at home, the excitement of Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze. You locked up DJ Moore as well, long term. So that's big news for them. I just think they got better in the offseason, especially defensively. So I think it's easy enough to say for at least this go around, I do like the Chicago Bears. And for the Jacksonville Miami game, again, you're in Miami. That's a high powered offense. Their defense is also pretty stacked as well. I don't like the looks of what Jacksonville has, especially defensively. I think Trevor Lawrence has trended down in the last couple. I think as the years go on, Trevor Lawrence has gone down and down.
Yeah.
Um, his receiving, I think he only has Calvin Ridley as a receiver, doesn't he? Or and then his other best weapon is Travis Etienne. So not much
Well,
offensive.
no. So Ridley is with Tennessee.
Oh,
They
Ridley's with
have
Tennessee.
they have Christian Kirk and they have Gabe
Christian Kirk.
Davis, and then they
That's
have
who I
that
was thinking of,
Brian
Christian Kirk.
and they have that Brian Thomas Jr. So like he
Okay.
has better guys.
Okay.
I don't like Trevor Lawrence. I know he's accurate, but dude, he threw like what three picks against us the last year. I
Yep.
wasn't really high on him. I didn't really care.
I
So
just wasn't. I haven't like again. He's starting to trend downwards every year. Each year I'm less impressed with him. Um, I just think that offense is going to find it hard to move the ball.
yeah,
So especially when they play tough opponents like the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a top 10 defense, top 5, top 10 offense as well. And again, you're in Miami. I think it's just going to be too difficult of a place to play. I think it's just going to be all Miami offense, and I think Miami offense is probably going to drop 30 plus points in this game.
yeah.
I'm definitely going with the Miami Dolphins here as well.
Sweet. All right. So next, Seahawks. We start getting into the 4:05 games.
Yep.
So Seahawks and Denver. I think Seahawks win this. Denver's going to start off rough. I do like Bo Nix, and I do think he is going to play well this year. But Denver went on a purge this off season, and I just think they're not going to have a good year. And I think Seattle's going to do a little better this year. So I'm going to say Seattle, and then Chargers and Raiders. That's another trap game, sort of like 50-50 game. Um, I'm gonna say Raiders, but I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if the Chargers get it done. I just think the Raiders have a better coach and they have a little more familiarity with themselves. And I think Gardner Minshew is starting there as well. So that'll be fun as well to
Yep.
see. So yeah, I'm going to say Raiders.
Yeah, Garden Minshew is a starter, and I am going to join you on the Seattle train. Again, again, this is just a lot of these games in week 1 that we're picking now. A lot of them is just easy matchups, especially for the home teams right now. And again, it's just no different from this 405 game between the Seahawks and the Broncos. I just don't see how the Broncos got any better besides adding Bo Nix, and they got rid. Obviously, they lost Jerry Judy to us, so their big receiver is Cortland Sutton still. They got rid of Samaje Perine. He is now gone, so it's just Javonte Williams in the backfield at this point. But Geno Smith has DK Metcalf. He's got Tyler
Smith-Njigba.
Lockett, Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, who's still really good. They have great running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet.
Yep.
Good offensive line,
Yep.
better defense overall. Again, this is just an easy pick. It's just Seattle all the way. And then I actually agreed with you on the Raiders versus Chargers. I think this is a trap game, and I think the Raiders are going to win this game. Again, reason being, I know Harbaugh has been in the NFL before. Obviously, he went to the Super Bowl against his brother and lost, and then went to Michigan pretty much right after that. So I know he's a great head coach, obviously, but again, this is a new offense, new team, new scheme. You don't know how the players are going to run the schemes. You don't know how Justin Herbert is going to be in your scheme. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing Herbert, who struggled a bit last year. And don't get me wrong, Herbert's really good. I still like Herbert. Just struggled a bit last year. But again, injuries to get guys like Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, stuff like that really affected him. And then he lost Keenan Allen and he lost Mike Williams as well. And so now you're stuck with Quentin Johnson as his number one. They got rookie Lad McConkey. They lost Austin Eckler. So
Added Gus Edwards and J.K. So I mean, it's a cool running back room, but I don't know if it's enough.
It's a very injured running back room. That's what it is. It's a very injured running back room. So I'm a little nervous about the running back room in there. There's just a lot of question marks about this offense. and where it's going to go. And especially with Harbaugh's ideologies, I think it's going to be a tough watch for the first couple of weeks for Chargers fans.
Yeah,
So give me Gardner Minshew as he's just going to unload to Devontae Adams all game long and just start hitting him on every single thing he can. And Brock
absolutely.
Bowers is going to be a fun watch too.
Absolutely. So I am actually going to leave the Dallas and Browns games last. So I am going
Okay.
to move on to Washington and the Bucks. I think the Bucks win this game, but I think Washington's going to make this game really fun. And this is another game I will not be surprised if what Washington can steal at home. I'm only taking Tampa because they are at home and they have more continuity. Still got Mike Evans, still got Baker. Pretty much the same team from last year. They're not great, but they're not bad. Um, but I do think Washington and Jane Day Daniels, they're gonna make this game really really fun, and I would not be surprised if Washington ends up winning this game. But I'm gonna go Bucks here, and then Rams Lions. I love the Lions here. I'm a huge Amon St. Brown fan. I really am high on like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is gonna be a one of the top running backs in the league this year. And I think Jameson Williams is going to have a phenomenal year as well. Finally being back in full, not starting the year suspended and sort of being on the chopping block of getting back into things. And Jared Goff is a solid quarterback. He's not great, and it's also kind of a revenge game between him and Stafford. It'll be fun, and I think the Rams are also going to keep this game really tight and really fun. But Lions at home, you can't count the Lions out at home. You just can't right now. They're too good.
Yeah. So I went different on both
Good.
games. Um,
Finally.
I well, all the other games were just very
I
easy.
know.
All the other games were just very easy. But I went with Washington against Tampa Bay. Like you said, I think Washington's gonna make this a very fun, exciting game. I'm liking the looks of Jaden Daniels. I think he's gonna be a very good quarterback in the NFL. Drafted him in a couple of my fantasy leagues just because I like him a lot lately, and I think he's gonna have a solid year. Um, but yeah, they're building something special in Washington. They've got great personnel. They've got good players. A solid defense, and their offense is starting to come around. They got rid of all the dead weight like Logan Thomas and a couple other
Yep.
guys. They got rid of a lot of that dead weight. I think Curtis Samuel's now gone, and I think Curtis Samuel landed in Buffalo. So,
Buffalo, yep.
so there's a lot of dead weight gone. And it's just a show now
For Scary Terry, really.
for Terry McLaurin, and I think him and Jane Daniels are going to connect very well. The Bucks team is starting to regress quite a bit. I'm going to assume. I know they had a great season under Baker last year, but I think you're going to start seeing some regression this year. I like Baker a lot. I think he's going to perform, but I just think Tampa Bay, a lot of the players are getting old and injured. Obviously, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are getting old. Don't get me wrong. I think Mike Evans is still going to have an 1,000-yard season. He's had one for the last 11 years in a row, so I don't see that stopping anytime. But their defense is starting to grow old and starting to age. Levante David, I think he's starting to get into the 30s. A lot of those guys are just getting old, and I just like I just like the fun young team in Washington. I think they're going to perform really well, and I think they're going to make this a fun game to watch.
Absolutely.
And then I went with the Rams versus Detroit. I mean, it's Stafford land in Detroit. Like, everyone loves Matt Stafford. I think all the Detroit fans still love Matt Stafford. He knows how to play in this stadium. He's played in this atmosphere before. He's not going to be nervous. He's not going to
No.
be. He's not going to be deterred by the fans. They all love him. And I think this is where I think the offense for the Rams is slightly better than Detroit. Don't get me wrong. I do love Jahmyr Gibbs. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff has been performing very well. Penei Sewell on the offensive line has been a very good leader over the last couple of years now since he got drafted in 2020. Their defense is solid, but I just think the Rams have a very high-powered offense. Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams. You have Corum behind him. You have again Puka Nakua. You have Cooper Kupp, both fully healthy and raring to go. I just think that I just think it's going to be a masterclass of the Rams offense, and I just think the head coach is just slightly better. Um, so I'm gonna give the edge to the Rams here.
Okay, okay. Hey, total respect there. And yeah, I mean, they're definitely a lot, healthier. And if Sean McVay can revitalize that team,
Yeah.
the Rams are going to be fun in that overall division, anyway. So, obviously you have the Monday night game, and then we'll go back to the Browns game to,
Yep.
finish this off. So, Monday night game, San Francisco versus Jets. This is a fun matchup, bro.
Yeah,
This
it's a great one.
this is going to be fun. Now, if we're basing off of what we saw last year, San Fran should win this game. They still have a crazy DoD defense. I think they improved on this defense, and they just got Ayuk handled. CMC is who he is. Brock Purdy should have another fantastic year. It should be good. But this is also going to be a fun game because it's A-Rod's game back, and he's a San Fran guy. Like, he's from California. So this is going to be a fun game for him as well. I will not be surprised if this ends up being like a full-on shootout. But I just think San Fran at home, it's hard to pick against them. So I'm gonna go San Fran here.
Okay. I completely agreed with you. I went with San Fran in this scenario. I just think getting Aaron Rodgers back, he hasn't had a chance to run the offense except for only 8 plays last year, which is very unfortunate. He got to run the flag out, and then he played for 8 snaps, fucked up his ankle, and he was gone. So, again, I think this is a very fun offense that they have. You have Aaron Rodgers, you have good receiving core and Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall is going to be a fun watch this year. I love Breece Hall. I think the defense is very solid as well. But then you go to San Francisco, again, Brock Purdy, Debo, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they just re-signed Trent Williams to another big signing or a big deal, so they got their offensive line back together.
It's very true too.
I again at home, I just like Brock Purdy in San Francisco, and again, I just think Robert Sala's just gonna get outcoached once again. So I have to go with San Francisco Monday Night Football.
Absolutely. So, finally, we are at Browns versus Cowboys, and we already talked about this, so I'm not going to get too in depth with this. It's more of a score per day action here. Obviously, I think the Browns are going to win this game. We're at home. I think the crowd is going to be rocking. Cleveland is going to have an earthquake with how crazy I think this crowd is going to be. Obviously Dallas is a good team. I just think, again, we have more talent than they do. And if they can just play up to par, if Watson can throw the ball well and not make mistakes, this could be an easier dub than people may realize. So I am going to personally score predict the Browns 28, Cowboys 17.
All right, going with the CLE Browns, and I am also gonna go for our boys. I'm always gonna back the boys. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna be a homer and pick up for every single week. That's just too unrealistic. But I'm sure you're not gonna do the same either.
Right.
But I think this is just a fun. I think this is gonna be one of the more fun and better watches of the season. I think everyone's gonna tune into this game because I think everyone's gonna want to see how Deshaun Watson does, how this offense performs. Everyone's gonna want to see what Dorsey and Stefanski cooked up, and on the back end, I mean, you have the cookings of Mike Vrabel and Jim Schwartz. So everyone's going to want to see how this team performs. Is the Browns defense going to be just the exact same as last year, just tearing it up at home, not allowing anything over like 100 yards per game? Are they just going to handle this? Again, we talked about this earlier, the question marks surrounding the secondary of the Dallas Cowboys, the question marks around the offensive line. There are some holes that need plugged for Dallas, and if the Browns can get to that Dak Prescott early, I think that's going to be the downfall of the Cowboys, because then without Dak Prescott, there's no one to throw to CeeDee Lamb. And Ezekiel Elliott's not the same running back he was years ago. So it's all in reality, it's all It's all CD and Dak Prescott in that offense. Again, they have 3 starting tackles that are rookies going into this game. So just based on those alone, I have the Browns winning just because I think if the Browns can get to Dak Prescott, the defensive line, and they can start to shake up Dak early on, it's going to be a long day for him. And I think that eases Deshaun Watson a little bit, allows him more freedom to just make plays. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns 27, the Cowboys 21
Okay.
is my
All
final
right.
score prediction.
So a little bit closer than me, but we do agree we're going to score quite a bit. Like
Yeah.
27 points is no joke, and I think getting around that 24 plus range, I think is very doable with this offense. Yeah, I'm super excited. This is going to be fun. So really hope the Browns will come in here on week 1 at home and really ride the crowd. And if they do, I think that's an easy dub. So, final thing that we are going to do before we end this long podcast. This is the longest episode that we have ever had, hour and 35 minutes. So what Andrew and I are going to do is we're going to throw up some bets. I have a small bet for this, and then I actually made up my own parlay. This is only for the Thursday night game for now, just because it's tomorrow, which by the time you guys see this, it will have already happened. So we'll see if we were right on these. We did not make any bets for the Browns game, but for the future, usually when we record on Thursdays, we'll probably end up doing bets for the Browns game. So tomorrow, my 2 favorite bets that I have is the Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown, which means he's going to run one in. And then I have Xavier Worthy over 3.5 receptions. I think he's going to have a fun game for him. I know a lot of people are going to look at Rashid Rice, but without Hollywood Brown, I really think they're going to add Worthy into this, and I think he's going to have a couple deep shots thrown to him. And if he can catch a few, Worthy's going to be a really fun player to watch. So yeah, those are my 2 favorites for this game tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a 3-pick parlay. Mine's a little bit less than Zach. I know I have a couple more or one more person than he does. His odds are a lot better. And they'll win you more money. But I went with a very simple and just kind of easy bet, just to kind of ease my way into the football season. I went with Rashee Rice over 5.5 receptions. He's covered this line in 8 of his last 10 games. He had 8 the last time he played against the Baltimore Ravens, and with him probably going to be the primary target. Oh, obviously Travis Kelce is probably going to be the number 1 guy on, obviously, as always. But as a number 1 wide receiver on the roster, now that Tyreek Hill is gone, I think Rashee Rice is going to be utilized a lot, especially on more simpler throws. They're going to use Worthy, like Zach said, for more deep shots and whatnot. Rashee Rice could be used for deep shots as well.
Absolutely.
But I think they're going to utilize him just to help move the ball downfield. So I think he's going to get a lot of targets in that sense. It's just a matter of, is he going to catch 6 of those of those targets. Then I went with Travis Kelce over 40+ reception yards. Again, it's very simple. I think Kelce's, again, it's the number 1 target that they have, and they're going to be utilizing him a lot in this game, especially if there's quick blitzes and, quick rushes. They're going to just quickly dump it off to Travis Kelce for some quick yardage. And then for my very last pick here, I went with, again, another simple thing. I went with Derrick Henry over 50+ rushing yards. As we said earlier in the podcast, they should have utilized this last season when they played the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs rushing defense was a bottom half in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they added Derrick Henry, this should be no problem. Again, I don't expect, it's the same players on defense for Kansas City. I don't expect their rushing defense to be 10 times better. Yeah. I think they're still going to be middle of the pack, below tier. They're going to probably utilize Henry a lot so they can keep Lamar on his feet and not let him get injured and allow him to stay in the pocket and make more throws and only run when he needs to. So I think it's going to be easy for Derrick Henry just to tap over 50 yards.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, those are safe bets. And that's kind of what we want to bring to these, is we don't want to put these too high risk bets out. But I am going to share my bigger parlay that I have a 6 leg parlay that I have ready to go. I got $10 put on it. Has a 5,984 plus odd to hit if this does hit. So I wanted to share this. If anybody wants to tail this, you can. I only put $10 on this, so I'm not risking a lot of money, and I don't recommend you do that. If you do, you're stupid. So please don't do that. If you're gonna bet smart. Don't bet like an idiot. And if you're gonna do a big parlay like this, don't put a lot of money down on it unless you are absolutely for certain that you think it's gonna hit. And even so, I wouldn't do it. So yeah, I have a 6 leg parlay here, and it's got an Isaiah Pacheco anytime touchdown. I also went with the Lamar Jackson anytime score as well, with Derrick Henry also having an anytime touchdown score. And then on top of that, I also added Lamar Jackson rushing for 40 yards, Pacheco running for 60, and Isaiah Likely 25 yards reception plus, or yards catching plus. So again, a $10 wager on a 6 leg parlay wins me $600. If you guys want to tail that, and if you want to put $1 on it, you're still gonna win some money. So this is what makes betting fun. But again, bet smart. Don't bet dumb. And if you're going to bet dumb, lowball it. That way you don't lose out on a lot of money. So, Andrew, you got anything else before we end the podcast here? I know this was a very long one.
Yeah.
It's almost midnight right now, so we are both getting tired.
Just one quick thing I do want to mention. I just want to say RIP to Blue Jackets, Johnny Gaudreau. Obviously, for people who have heard the news, him and his brother were tragically killed in a car accident over the past weekend. They were attending their sister's wedding. Him and his brother Matthew were attending his sister's wedding, and they were groomsmen in the wedding. And they were on a evening bike ride. It was around like 8 p.m. at night, and a drunk driver was too busy trying to pass slow cars, which obviously the slow cars were there for a reason because they were slowly trying to pass the two bikers, being Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau. And he was kind of weaving in and out, just passing cars. And then the front car ended up going more towards the middle so that way they could pass the Gaudreau brothers. So the driver moved into the lane to try and pass him, the front guy, as he moved into the middle, and obviously didn't see the Gaudreau brothers and hit them at the same time and tragically killed them. And the driver, obviously in prison now, was sentenced, I think it's like 10 to 15 years. Should have been more, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's very sad. If you're a hockey fan, I started getting into hockey over in the last few years. I mean, I have family members who are hockey fanatics, and they've got me into hockey since I was in high school. And I started casually watching more and more every year. And over the last couple of years, I actually started following it a lot and becoming a big fan. Obviously, even my whole life, I've been a Blue Jackets fan. Again, just kind of casually watching here and there. And over the last couple of years, finally getting deep into it. And I was stoked when we signed Johnny Hockey 2 seasons ago. And this is the guy who is a great talent. He could have chosen any team to play for in the league. He could have gone to Florida Panthers. He could have gone to Stanley Cup winning teams. And out of the blue, he chooses the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are obviously one of the worst teams in the league. And his boy, obviously our defenseman, Zach Werenski, earlier today, because they had a visual for him earlier, he came out and said, you could have went anywhere, and you chose to come to Columbus when no one else would. And that's what made you a fan favorite, and that's what made you a good friend and a top player, is that you could have been anywhere, and you chose Columbus when no one else would. Yeah. So that's like years ago, when LeBron left and somehow we got someone like Kevin Durant or something, like, you chose to go to this team and, be the best of the best, and this sorry ass team, and yet, Johnny Gaudreau did the same. He chose to go to a sorry ass team because he wanted to be the reason why they were good. He wanted to be the reason why they won, and I respect that a lot from players when they do that, because at that point it's not even about the money. It's just about doing something special, and that's what he wanted to do. And he was a very special player, and And they signed recently his best friend that they played with when they were younger, and unfortunately, he didn't even get the chance to skate in the same ice in the pros
Yeah.
together, and it's very tragic, and it's a very upsetting loss that should have never happened. And obviously,
Yeah.
I feel bad for the family because again, your sister was getting married the day before or the day after you got killed, so it is very devastating. It's very devastating, and I just want to say R.I.P. to the Gaudreau brothers, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's so sad. Like anytime you hear anything related to drunk driving, it hits home for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just from stuff that I've dealt with in my past too, and it's just sad, man. It really is sad that somebody can make a decision like that and the effect that it can have on many people, and it
Yeah.
has affected this community a lot, and it's very sad. And really, it's hit the NHL just together. Like everybody liked
Mm-hmm.
him. Like he was just a solid player. He was a good dude. He was one of those sort of Nick Chubb guys where everybody just likes him. Everybody loves him,
Yeah.
and it's really sad. It's always sad when you see uh, good people go like that. So yeah, R.I.P. to him and his brother. It's just man, it was so sad. I was really uh, hurt by that when I heard that. So
and
it's very
and
unfortunate.
also shout out to Johnny Gaudreau's former team that he left, the Calgary Flames, for
Yes.
also holding a giant vigil, and also the fans of the Calgary Flames who joined up with the Blue Jackets and mourned together
Yeah.
as he played for the Calgary Flames before he came to Columbus, and was a top player in Calgary, was one of their best players over the course of a few years before transitioning to the Blue Jackets. And so both fans, I mean, if you go and look at the memorials, I mean, they're absolutely massive. I think the Blue Jackets one goes for almost like a full block.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
so it's it's crazy, and again, if you're thinking about drinking and driving, just call an Uber,
Yeah.
call your best friend, call a family member, just have someone come pick you up, and you can always get your car in the morning. You don't need to be out there driving because stuff like this happens all the time, and you
There's no
know,
excuse. There's
yeah,
there's no
no,
excuse. It's not the 80s, anymore
yeah,
where people don't have the ability to get an Uber or even a taxi for that matter. I mean, come on, those
yeah.
have been around forever. There's just no excuse, and it's really it more so frustrates me if anything because yeah, again, you don't have an excuse. You shouldn't be doing it. So
I don't care if you
unfortunate.
waste. I don't care if you waste an extra $10 in an Uber to go home. Just waste that $10, get an Uber, get home
Yeah.
safely, then come back and get your car later.
Shit. Call your mom, call your
Mm-hmm.
dad, call your best friend. They would much rather pick you up at 4 a.m. than hear that you were dead by 4 a.m. Like
Yeah,
that's and that's
it's a
a
massive difference.
and it's a horrible thing to say, but it's also like
A very true
real.
thing to. Yeah.
It's very true. So yeah, just don't do dumb shit like that, please. So
Yeah.
so yeah, guys, we will see you next week with some more NFL predicts, some more Browns news. We will see how the Browns play this week against Dallas. We are going to be rooting hard for our Brownies this year, and let us know if you guys like this sort of format of having the NFL predicts. I like doing it. I mean, I know it added about another half hour, 2 hour show. But so we'll probably definitely try to cut more out. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun thing for us to do. The bets and stuff. We like doing that. So we're
Hmm.
gonna definitely keep that a part of the show as much as we can. So we will see you guys next week. And remember, we're just BSing.